Political Animal. I am the Prophet of Doom, and I'm here with Josh Hejka, who is the blog writer for 50 and 1. Josh, I know that you are quite interested in politics. I wonder if you'd take a moment and describe for us the political environment that we're in, the context for this coming election.
Right now, the political environment is very cutthroat. Everybody is at each other trying to find something against their opponent to get a higher edge. For example, Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney are just keep attacking each other with different ads and at debates and things like that.
Do you think the super PACs, the money behind it, is the true cause of the issue, or do you think that this is really deeply held beliefs that each candidate has that they're beginning to express and articulate where they may have been more tactful or diplomatic in the past?
I think the super PACs are kind of a problem. Corporations are people. That's the ruling that Citizens United announced. I don't know how long ago. But I think that's a problem because corporations are definitely not people. They do not have all the rights that people have, and I don't think they should be considered as such.
So you'd say that the root of the problem is the money in the system.
Yes.
Lawrence Lessig has also written a book to that effect. How would you go about changing it? Would you have public subsidies for elections? That is, candidates wouldn't have to worry about raising money if they were each allotted, let's call it $100 million. If we said we'll give each of the major candidates $100 million of taxpayer money and they will go off and see what they can do with it.
Well, I think it's more fair like that, but I don't think you should use taxpayer money for that. I don't think that's what taxpayer money should be going for. That's not what it should be used for. There should be a way to equalize the race because it shouldn't be based on who has the most money. It should be based on who has the best ideas for the American people.
What are some of the ideas that you've heard so far that you think deserve our consideration that are truly worthy of debate? Things that have come up over, let's call it the last 4 or 5 months that many different candidates, you can choose the ones that you want, have raised. What ideas are worth our consideration?
Well, Middle East is a big one. Iran is a big situation that many Republicans said that they will declare war in Iraq or at least take preventive actions against Iraq.
You mean Iran?
I apologize, Iran. And then Israel is another one that many people are many Republicans are proposing to protect Israel at all costs. Ron Paul, on the other hand, is the one candidate who is deciding not to get into these foreign issues and staying away from both Iran and Israel.
Are you an isolationist? Is that why it appeals to you? Would you prefer to see us stay within our borders?
Yes, definitely. Take George Washington's advice on his final
address where it says do not get entangled in foreign affairs?
Yes, stay within our own business.
Is that something that after 9/11 is not an easy position to hold? I mean, we, whether we want to or not, are entangled in the affairs of state.
Yes, we should be. I understand that you have to protect your country, but however, there's a time and place for that, and I don't think Iran poses a credible threat. And Israel, on the other hand, we should not protect them. Like, just because it is a country that is dear to many people's hearts doesn't mean that they should deserve special treatment.
So foreign affairs definitely are drawing your attention. Are there
Yes.
any other issues that you think are worthy of our consideration that have come up over the course of the political dialogue that both parties, multiple parties, have had in the last 6 months to a year?
Well, this isn't really a specific issue, but I think one problem right now is that the Republican candidates are fighting against each other instead of uniting against who their opponent is.
Isn't that the nature of the primaries, where initially there's some discord, but by the convention, all viewpoints are brought into concert, into symphony, as it were?
It doesn't seem like it's that, like, right now. Most candidates are just against each other. I think by the time that the regular election comes around, that the candidates will be too beat up to pose a credible threat to Obama.
So that's your feeling on the political process itself. You've
Yes.
given us some sense of the ideas that are of interest to you. Is there anything else that's going on at the local, regional, state, or federal level that you are keeping track of for your blog, 50 and 1?
Right now, I'm not really covering any major topics right now. But another problem I see with the system is that legislators, they make laws for things that they don't understand all the time.
So special interests are guiding this, lobbyists are guiding this.
Yes, like for instance, SOPA, the bill that got discarded from Congress. many people in Congress did not even know how like that would affect the internet. They were just pandering to the big companies in Hollywood.
So you, I suspect, are against SOPA.
Absolutely.
You don't believe that online piracy is a threat to the United States?
Oh, definitely not.
Or you don't believe that this legislation can stop online piracy?
Absolutely not. It will not. It won't do anything to stop the people who really want to download stuff. And
Do you have a solution that you propose to counter this threat to our national security and to our economic welfare? Or are you simply saying you can't protect yourself in a risky market?
you can't exactly. Piracy is not even. I don't think it's a threat to the musicians and movie makers because well, there was piracy going on before with tape recorders taping the radio. People were doing that a long
But the
time ago.
scale, you'll agree, is a
Yes,
different
it's
scale.
different scale,
So
yes.
if one person with one recorder shares it with 100 friends,
Yes.
that's still different than several 100 million people
Yes.
sharing it with several 100 million more.
Yes, yes,
It has economic
understand.
consequences.
Yes.
I'm neither for or against this bill. I just want to make sure I understand
All
your
right.
rationale. So you're taking a look at some of the issues that are of interest to you, like the internet. Are there issues that your generation is particularly concerned about? I know when you bring up SOPA, I think that it became a hot button issue for students when Google turned off the lights, as it were, 2
Yes.
weeks ago.
And Wikipedia did the same
And
too.
would you say that that's the level of student interest in the issue, how it
Yes.
affects them, or do you think it's deeper than that?
I think it's how it affects them because, well, like the only people really for SOPA are the people who are in Hollywood and who are making the music producers. Everybody else is against that issue because it affects the internet as a whole. Like if Facebook has one person post copyrighted material, they could be shut down for good. Any website that could happen to.
So what's your feeling about intellectual property? To whom do these rights devolve? To the creator of the product, to the person who licenses and publishes it, or to the consumer that encounters it and then can rework it and share it with friends at will?
I believe it's all three because the producers of the actual material, well, obviously it's their material, they made it. But once you publish it, then you obviously have some rights because you're the one who published it. They wouldn't be around if you weren't publishing it for you. And then if the consumer has some rights because, well, they bought the music, they have the right to it.
So the difference, I think, is
own it.
that if I were walking through a museum, I could be looking at, let's call it a Leonardo da Vinci painting. If I wanted a copy of that, I can go to the museum store, buy it, put it up on my wall, and if I chose to redo the Mona Lisa's smile, I can go ahead and do that on my copy.
Yes.
The difference now is that the copies and the original exist simultaneously in, call it cyberspace. So there's the actual song that came out, and then Josh Heshka's interpretation of that song, and both are viably out there at the same time. Or
Yes.
there's the version that was locked at one point, and then there's the jailbreak version that someone has put out there, removing the digital rights management. Is that, do you think, a threat not to our economy, but to our morality? That we will stop recognizing the property of others and always assume that it's our own property?
I understand what you mean by that, but I think there's a difference between when it comes to the internet and the actual physical goods. Many people will believe that we'll stop doing that on the internet. Like many people download illegal copies of Microsoft products, Photoshop, Adobe products. But when it comes to actual physical goods, I don't think it'll affect them at all. It's just that people think differently when it comes to the internet for some reason, and I don't think that will affect our morality when it comes to real things. But it will definitely affect our morality when it comes to electronic things.
That's this episode of The Political Animal. I want to thank Josh for being here. Next time we'll tackle the Michigan primary, which should be just about the next time we have an episode. Thank you again. I'm the Prophet of Doom, signing out.